Welcome to another episode of the 40 Plus Woman. My name is Busola Jegede and I'm passionate about women. Now, this is a program of enlightenment, inspiration, filled with wisdom nuggets. We do an expose on different issues that's going to help you as a woman, especially as you are getting older. Now, today promises to be another exciting episode on the 40 Plus Woman with Busola Jegede. On the 40 Plus Woman show today, we are discussing the woman and legal matters. The 40 Plus Woman and legal issues that she's supposed to pay attention to. And to discuss this wonderful topic, we have a lawyer in the studios with us. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Barrister Tola Anyaru. Barrister.
Thank you for having me, ma'am. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hello there, my name is Busola Jegede. I am a John Maxwell certified coach, a consultant, and a chartered accountant. For over 15 years, I've been working with women, helping them to discover their purpose, their vision, holding their hands, seeing them through turning their visions to profitable ventures. And it will be a delight to work with you. Do you feel unfulfilled? Do you feel that there is more to your life? Do you have a story to tell, a book to write, a vision to birth? Are you over 40 or 50? I can assure you that the second half of your life can be better than the first half. Why don't you sign up for my one-on-one coaching session or a strategy session? It will be a joy to work with you to reinvent yourself, to birth a new you.
Now, what are those things that you see, the challenges that women face when they don't pay attention to certain things?
Okay, thank you for that question. I would like to answer or respond to that question in two ways. First of all, talking about the woman as an individual of our own, and also talking about the woman as a wife in a family structure. So firstly, as a woman, as an individual, you have your own assets. Let's start with our assets, our bank accounts, properties probably, shares in blue chip companies or shares in usual companies, and those kind of assets. What is the structure? How are you holding those assets in your own name as an individual? That's one. Then as a woman within a family or as somebody's wife, you've worked together to build something. You've purchased the house together with your with your spouse jointly. How is that asset being held? Is it in the name of you and your husband? What understanding do you have? Then also you have maybe a joint savings account or a joint account where you put in money together. What is the structure or what is the mandate on that account? Do you as an individual have a right to go to the bank one day and say you want to withdraw the money, or must you wait for your husband to sign with you for you to be able to have access to the money? You are buying shares. Are you buying shares in the name of you and your husband or in the name of the family? Or are you buying shares as an individual on your own? So, there are so many ramifications to, be able to examine all these issues legally.
Wow. It's such a broad thing. Now, looking at the kind of society that we're in Nigeria, we're in Africa, there are a lot of traditional values and practices that limit women when it comes to owning property or even demanding to be stated on the document. Because what you find out is a lot of men are protective. Why do you want your name to be on the property? For instance, many men would say, do you want to kill me or something? That's what women say, and so they draw back. And we have also seen cases whereby, though the women don't contribute financially, but they contribute their life, they contribute the support. And when they contribute all these things, how do you quantify it? How does a woman secure her position? in the scheme of things, if, for instance, there is a fallout?
Yeah, so that is a conversation that we need to have continually, depending on the kind of structure you have. You have, for example, a simple family, a man, a woman, and children, husband, wife, and children. And, you know, the man is an upwardly mobile man, or somebody that is doing pretty well. He has decided that he wants his wife to work from home. I mean, giving, you know, an example. For example, if the woman doesn't work. So, as a woman, you now need to pay attention to what kind of estate plan does my husband have? In the event that my husband, you know, God forbid tomorrow he drops dead, what happens to me? What happens to the children of the family? That's in a simple, structured family. Sometimes we have families that are more complex. For example, the man may have been married before, you know, not with legally with children, not legally divorced, and then decides that he wants to marry again, quote and unquote. We see this happen a lot. You know, you don't get married legally, but you start living together. Maybe sometimes they can conduct the traditional momimwe, you know, and then everybody assumes that they are married, not forgetting that, oh, there is a first marriage,
which is still valid.
Exactly. There is no divorce. There is no, you know, legal divorce. Maybe they are separated in law, but his first marriage is still valid. But now you have entered into another marriage, which you think is valid, but is not valid. So a lot of women find themselves in that position. So under such a circumstance, if it so happens that the man has a will, or he decides to write a will, then of course in his will he can state whatever he wants. If he decides that, oh, I have 2 houses, I want the woman that is living with me, and I don't want to use the word wife because, you know, she's not a legal wife. So person will have this property, then yes, you know, a will, you can do whatever you want to do. You can give whoever you want to give any of your properties, your cards, your personal assets, your shares, you can give as you want. But for example, if there is no will, and this woman is the one living at home with the man as at the time he died, if he hasn't, you know, done any other thing, by example, for example, if he hasn't given her a property legally to say that, oh, this property now belongs to you, or if he hasn't designated certain amounts of money to her, or maybe even set up a trust or drafted a power of attorney in her favor, then she'll be left with very little or nothing. Because legally, the first wife still has a higher say than she does in the administration of his affairs. Because the law protects the first wife. Section 47E of the Administration of Estates Law, using Lagos State as an example, has written down who is entitled to benefit from somebody's assets. And if a man dies, the first in line there is the spouse. That is the wife. And if it's a woman...
Must they be married under the law?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they must be married.
Okay, good.
Yes. But another thing to consider, now that you just mentioned that, we have customary law.
Okay.
So if somebody during his lifetime has demonstrated that, oh, he's a customary man, and when he dies, he wants customary law to govern him, that is another thing.
Stated
entirely. No, once you state it, that means there is a will.
Okay, okay.
So the will govern the affairs.
If it were interstate.
Yes, if he died intestate and he has, you know, demonstrated he was not probably married according to the Marriage Act.
Okay.
So sometimes, especially, you know, in other states, customary law might come into play. But in a metropolitan state like Lagos State, then we'll say, oh, let's apply to the court to get letters of administration to administer the affairs of the man.
Wow, this is deep. It's deep because we've seen instances where, you know, in the case of a marriage fallout, a man goes into another relationship. This other person, everybody knows this person, and then it's probably the woman caring for the man who was ill, you know, just laboring away without securing her position, and then if the eventuality happens, she can just be told to leave. So this is why women need to pay attention.
Absolutely.
I want us to look at, because increasingly we are seeing this play out. What if there is a legal marriage and unfortunately the man departs and the woman at the graveyard or sometime during the morning period just sees another woman showing up with 2-3 children looking like her husband? Carbon copy. What's she supposed to do? And if the will does not mention them, because if the will states anything about them, it's clear cut. Yes. But the will doesn't say anything about them. Yes. But there are indicators that those children belong to the man. But the man never said anything, because a lot of men are keeping secret lives, living double lives, a wife in Port Harcourt or one in Canada, one in Nigeria. So what's the position of a woman who is mourning and who is now faced with such a thing? What should she do?
Okay, first of all, we've seen this one too many times. So a man that probably had a mistress, sorry to use that word, but it is what it is, a mistress with children outside of his marriage. So there are two things. He can decide that he wants to write a will, mention the children, and give whatever he wants to give to them or the mistress. That's fine. I mean, there's no argument.
That's straightforward.
Yes, that's straightforward. Once the will has not been, nobody has tried to set aside the will on grounds of fraud, or undue execution, that it wasn't properly signed or something. If the will is admitted to probate, then there is no problem. But that situation you just painted now often happens when there is no will. So somebody shows up at the graveyard with children and claims to be the mistress or the second wife of this man. This man probably was married under the Marriage Act. Everybody knew Mrs. A as his wife. They knew B, C, D as his children. Maybe a few friends knew that, he had a mistress that he was...
Baby mama.
a baby mama that he was nursing outside with children. Well, before the law, all children are equal. Yes, so all children there are no illegitimate children. There are no illegitimate issues. So if this woman whatever standing she may be, if it is obvious and they can prove that those children belonged to the man whilst he was alive and he cared for them, of course there will be indicators to show that, he spent time with them, he paid their school fees, pictures, then they are entitled to benefits. Yes, because the law does not recognize illegitimate children. All children are equal before the law, whether born within or outside of marriage. But the woman now, the mistress, might not have any say in how the property should be administered for her own benefits, but for the benefit of her children, either as a guardian or as the legal parents to the children, the legal surviving parents. Yes, she might have a say in the event that they want to cheat them out of their inheritance.
Wow. So what you're saying, just to clarify to a lot of people, is that if a man has children outside and he leaves a will, it is straightforward. Whoever he decides to give his property to, fine. But in case a man dies intestate without a will and some children show up, then the law recognizes those children, because under the law there is no illegitimate child. But the woman, the mistress, may not get anything because she wasn't married.
Yes.
Wow. Interesting stuff going on the 40 Plus Woman with Busola Jegede. We're talking legal issues. You need to call a woman to pay attention. We're going on a short break. We'll be right back.
P1 Premium presents to you Premium Vintage Gardens, located at the heart of Ibejuleki by Lakaway Golf Course. It has an excellent title of CFO and governor's consent, 100% dry land, and built-up neighborhood. Sizes and prices include 6.250 million for 300 square meters. A 450 square meters goes for 9,375,000 naira. The 600 square meters goes for 12,500,000 naira. Estate feature, gated and secured environment, perimeter fencing, good road network, gardens and landscaping, prompt allocation, neighborhood, Novera Shopping Mall, and Corona's Grove, Lekki. Other estates from P1 Premium includes Imperial Estate, Jikoyi, Abuja, Imperial City Estate, Asaba, Imperial City, Warri, Imperial City, Port Harcourt. For more inquiry, visit our website, www.p1premium.com. PrimePremium.com or call us on 08033117277 or 08052928259.
Welcome back to the 40 Plus Woman with Busola Jegede, and we're talking about interesting stuff here today. The 40 Plus Woman and legal matters. Can you tell us more? What are those things that a woman should pay attention to, even for herself, being a person, not even just because she's a wife? What are those things?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the woman as an individual has her own aspirations. She has her own desires for her life. So she might be a career woman, and she might also be an entrepreneur. She might be a businesswoman. She might have assets of her own. She might have properties, money in the bank, shares, all sorts of assets. So the kind of things that she needs to pay attention to, starting from whenever, especially now, is what kind of structure do I have in place to ensure that in the case of any eventuality, things can continue as I've been managing. So for example, God forbid, if something happens to her, not even death now, she might be involved in an accident, she might become incapacitated, she might be unable to make decisions by herself. What are the kind of things that she should put in place to ensure that people around her, her spouse, her children, her brothers and sisters, if she's not married, are able to make decisions that will benefit her? So apart from that now, if the woman as an individual thinks about a structure to put in place in the case of incapacitation, God forbid death happens, what happens to her assets to ensure that the people that she wants to benefit are the ones that actually benefit? Is it her spouse, her husband,
or her
or
children?
is it her children, or even her parents? God forbid that they are still alive by the time she dies. Her siblings, her friends. What are the structures in place to ensure that, oh, my beautiful Michael Kors watch goes to...
Or even if she has a business.
So those are the kind of things that we as women need to start thinking about and start planning for, especially now that we see a rise in, women are more knowledgeable now. There's a desire for knowledge. There's a desire for estate planning. Let me use, that term. I didn't want to get too legalistic, but it is what it is. Estate planning. We need to now pay attention to planning our estates. What is an estate? An estate is a summary of all the assets you own, inclusive of debts. So somebody might die and have assets, but may also be owing a few people money.
Liability.
Yes, the person might have liabilities. So what are the structures you have in place to ensure that in the case you transition, all these things are adequately taken care of? So we have different structures which, if you want me to discuss,
yes, please,
I can go ahead. So of course there's the will.
Okay.
Anybody can write a will. A woman can write a will and say, oh, these are my assets. You list your assets and how you want them to be distributed. That's a will. It's, usually quite simple.
And does it have to be registered somewhere?
Yes, yes. When you write a will, according to the provisions of the law, the Lagos State now, using Lagos State as an example, the Civil Procedure Law, I think section 165, you need to take the will to the court. There's a will archive in the court where you have to lodge the will. So what happens is that when the will is lodged, it will be on record that this person wrote a will and lodged it at the High Court. But it might happen either way. Some people write wills and don't lodge their wills. If this will was properly written and it was kept in a safe place that nobody tampered with it, it can still be admissible to court in the event the person has died and the will was found at home. So lodgement is necessary, but there are circumstances where the will can still be admissible to probate once it is proved that nothing has happened to it.
It's signed.
Yes, properly executed and not tampered with prior to or after the person's death. So that's one. So you write a will, you lodge it, and then when the eventuality happens, your family can apply to the court for it to be read so that they can know the content. So when you write a will, of course, preferably by a professional, somebody that has experience in will writing, so they can advise you on how to distribute your assets because there might be limitations to distribution. For example, if you own an asset jointly,
Okay.
we've seen situations where maybe a father died and he gave 2 of his children a property in Maryland, for example. You cannot say, oh, this property, after all, I own half of it. I want to give somebody else when I die. There are limitations to that. There is what you call joint ownership. That means when one person dies, the other person automatically becomes the owner of that property.
Really?
Yes. So, yes, so there are limitations. That is why we always need an expert to advise us on the kind of devolutions that we can have in wills.
So what you're saying is that if a woman jointly owns property with her husband, she cannot will that property?
No, it's a joint asset. And the right of survivorship always takes precedence. That means that whoever dies first ceases to have any rights, ownership over the property, and the person cannot give somebody else their own part of the property. Automatically, it becomes the other person's own. Yes, so that's what you call joint ownership.
Wow. For women who own property jointly, they need to pay attention.
Absolutely.
They need to pay attention to the intricacies of that. Now, let's move a bit further, even as we're rounding up. What do you advise women to do concerning trusts?
Yes, so I was going to that.
Setting up trusts.
Yes, yes. So there are different aspects of estate planning. I started with the wills. So trust is another possibility that you can think of depending on your family structure. So what do I mean by trust? The trust originated from the ancient Roman Empire when soldiers used to go to war. They would say, oh, I'm going to war now, but I might not come back. So they will appoint one of their friends or a relative to say, I own 6 bars of gold. I want you to hold this in trust for my children. In case I go to war and I don't return, take this 6 bars of gold and manage it for the benefit of my children, because the children are not old enough to trade with the bars of gold, you know, by themselves. So that is how, you know, a trust relationship is established. You as an individual, you are called the settlor, and then you have a trustee who can be anybody. These days we have trust institutions, we have trustee companies. So instead of an individual, we have companies that are taking the position of trustees. So you appoint them to manage your assets, either for your own benefit whilst you're alive, that's called a living trust, or for the benefit of your beneficiaries.
So whilst you're alive, you can set up a trust?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. Whilst you're alive, you can set up a trust. Or what you have when you have a testamentary trust. That is a trust that takes effect after you have passed away. So you have living trust and testamentary trust. So what that trust does is this. You have assets, you have money, you have bank accounts, you have shares, you have properties. You take those properties and you move them to your trustee. That means you have assigned all your rights to the administration of those properties to another person that is called a trustee to manage for the benefit of named beneficiaries. These beneficiaries can be your children, they can be your parents, it can be anybody that you want the assets managed on behalf of. Due to one reason or the other, you might decide that, oh, it's not yet time for my children to have control of this type of assets. I need to appoint a trustee that will do the management for them. Or, oh, I don't trust myself to be able to adequately manage these assets for the benefit of my children. Let me appoint a trustee to do that for me. So that under those circumstances, you can create a trust. If you decide that, oh, right now in my lifetime, I want somebody to manage my assets for my benefit, and even after I've gone, for the benefit of my children or my spouse, you know, whoever you deem fit.
Introducing Blissful Honey Beans. Rich in protein and fiber. Good nutrition for your family. Blissful Honey Beans. Hygienically packed in 2 kg and 1 kg packet. Stone-free and weevil-free. Pour straight to your pot and cook. Stress-free and convenient. Order online and it will be delivered anywhere in Lagos. For other locations, call 070-8307-6210. Blissful Honey Beans. No stress.
Wow. So we're talking about estate planning, wills, trusts. Okay, what else do we have on the estate planning?
You also have, for example, powers of attorney.
Okay.
This is very common outside of Nigeria, especially in the UK, US sometimes. So there are people that have particular assets that want other people to benefit from. So you can decide that, oh, my property in Maryland, I want to give so person a power of attorney to continue to manage it, either for my benefits or for the benefits of my children.
Wow. We're talking about legal matters, and I want to even point out that a lot of women working alone need to pay attention. You mentioned something that the reason why women need to state these things is that when they are no longer there, you want the right people to be able to benefit. We've seen women who probably were widowed or they were single parents, they never married, and in the case of their demise, relatives will just come and cut away everything, and maybe their children are still minors. So it's important for any woman over 40. Nobody is praying for death, but it's important for you to secure the future of your children. We've been talking legal matters today on the 40 Plus Woman, and this is how far we can go today on this particular episode. I'm sure we're still going to come back again with some more legal matters. I want to say a very big thank you. What are your closing thoughts for any woman out there legally?
Firstly, structure, especially when you have a business. Nowadays, women that have careers, yes, as an individual, you can buy properties, you have your pension funds, you know, there's a semblance of structure to an extent. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're working from home or you're doing your own business, you need to have structures in place so that your children or whoever you want to benefit can easily benefit in the case of any eventuality. So we need to pay attention to structures. That's my closing word for the day.
Thank you so much, Barrister. And that's how far we can go on the 40 Plus Woman. You can continue with the conversation on our Facebook page. It's called the 40 Plus Woman. We're also on Instagram, the 40 Plus Woman, and you can follow me at Jegede Busola. If you have a question or clarification, do send me an email on transformationsbj@gmail.com. Till the next time we come your way, bye for now.
La 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 la. La la la.
What an insightful session we've just had. Remember the takeaway points, the 40 Plus Woman and legal issues. Now, the barrister has said every woman, you need to secure your legal position. Even in that marriage, make sure your status is legal, and then you've got to make provisions even as a person. How are you going to secure your asset? You may be a woman working alone, you may be single, you may be divorced. You need to secure your assets. She mentioned writing a will, setting up trusts, having a power of attorney. Please don't let's leave these things hanging. They are important. On the 40 Plus Woman next time, it's going to be wonderful. I'll see you. My name is Busola Jegede.
Like a diamond in the rough, you were built up to be tough. You were blessed beyond the curse by the power of the cross. So don't give up on the cause. Regardless